The Crimson Colosseum of Velthar had witnessed countless deaths over its 3,000-year history, but never had it been so silent. Emperor Vakor leaned forward on his obsidian throne, his 6 crystalline eyes fixed on the lone figure standing in the center of the blood-stained arena. The human called Darius Kane stood motionless, his chest rising and falling with measured breaths, surrounded by the corpses of 7 of the Empire's finest champions. 7 warriors who had conquered worlds, who had broken armies, who had made entire species kneel in terror, all reduced to broken shells at the feet of this single, defiant creature from a backwater planet the Veltharians had conquered only cycles ago. "Impossible," hissed General Kraxel from Vakor's right. "The human should have fallen after the 3rd champion. Its physiology doesn't allow for this level of endurance." But Darius Kane was still standing. The arena floor was a mosaic of carnage. The 1st champion, a towering Gorthak berserker whose hide could deflect plasma bolts, lay with its neck twisted at an unnatural angle. The 2nd, a phase-shifting wraith assassin that had never been touched in combat, had somehow been caught mid-shift and impaled on its own blade. The 3rd through 7th told similar stories of impossible victories, each one a testament to something the Veltharian Empire had failed to account for in their invasion: calculations, human adaptability. Vakor had studied the reports from Earth extensively after the conquest, a species that had barely achieved interstellar flight, divided by arbitrary lines on their own planet, constantly warring among themselves. They should have been easy to subjugate. The invasion fleet had expected token resistance at best. What they got was 3 years of grinding, desperate warfare. The humans had learned to fight Veltharian warriors by studying their movements, adapting their tactics, turning their own technology against them. They had lost billions, sacrificed entire cities, burned their own infrastructure to deny the invaders' resources. And when they finally fell, it wasn't because they were weak. It was because they were simply outnumbered 1,000,000 to 1. Darius Kane had been a special forces operator before the conquest. Vakor knew his file by heart now. 37 years old, multiple commendations for valor, expert in hand-to-hand combat, weapons specialist, survival instructor. He had fought in the Himalayas campaign, the last stand of Tokyo, and the siege of New York before finally being captured in the ruins of what humans called Denver. The Emperor had brought him here to make an example, to show the remaining human resistance that even their finest warriors were nothing before Veltharian might. Instead, Darius Kane was making a very different statement. "Send in Vortex," Vakor commanded, his voice tight. A collective gasp rippled through the thousands of alien spectators. Vortex was no ordinary champion. He was the Emperor's personal executioner, a 9-foot-tall Veltharian elite, bred specifically for combat, enhanced with the finest cybernetic augmentations the Empire could provide. He had executed kings, crushed rebellions, and had never, not once in 200 battles, failed to kill his opponent within minutes. The arena gate opposite Darius opened with a grinding roar. Vortex emerged, his 4 arms each wielding a different weapon: a plasma cutter, a molecular blade, an energy whip, and a gravity hammer. His armor glinted with shield generators. His helmet displayed a targeting array that could track a fly's wing beat. Darius Kane simply adjusted his grip on the crude metal pole he'd torn from one of the arena barricades. He had no armor, no shields, no advanced weaponry, just flesh, bone, and an unbreakable will. "Your species is remarkable in its refusal to accept reality," Vakor transmitted directly to Darius through the arena's communication system. "You have fought admirably, human. Surrender now and I will grant you a quick death. Continue and Vortex will make your end. Educational." Darius looked up at the Emperor's box. His face was a mask of cuts and bruises, one eye swollen nearly shut, blood dripping from a gash across his forehead. But when he smiled, it was the smile of a man who had already won something more important than this battle. "You want to know the difference between humans and you?" Darius called out, his voice carrying across the silent arena. "We don't fight because we think we'll win. We fight because surrendering isn't in our nature. Every human you've captured, every city you've burned, every child you've taken, they're watching this somehow. And they're seeing that one of us, with nothing but determination, brought your empire's finest to their knees." He turned to face Vortex, settling into a combat stance that Vakor recognized from human martial arts files. So come on then, Darius said quietly. Let's see if your executioner can do what your champions couldn't. Vortex charged, a blur of lethal efficiency. The plasma cutter hummed. The molecular blade sang, the energy whip cracked like thunder. The alien was faster, stronger, better equipped in every measurable way. But Darius Kane had spent 3 years fighting an impossible war. He had learned that when you're outmatched in every category, you don't fight the enemy's fight. You make them fight yours. He dodged, rolled, used the arena's terrain, turned Vortex's own weapons against him through calculated redirections and precise timing. The metal pole became an extension of his will, blocking, striking, leveraging. Minutes stretched into an eternity. The crowd's silence gave way to murmurs, then to gasps, then to something that Vakor had never heard in this arena before. Uncertainty. Vortex was slowing. The human was adapting to every pattern, learning from every exchange, turning the executioner's advantages into liabilities in the confined space. When the gravity hammer swung too wide, Darius was inside its arc. When the plasma cutter swept high, he was low. When all 4 arms coordinated an inescapable attack, the human found an impossible escape, and then, in a moment that would be replayed on every resistance broadcast for years to come, Darius Kane caught the energy whip mid-strike, ignored the searing pain as it burned into his palm, and used it to pull himself toward Vortex. The metal pole drove up through a gap in the executioner's armor, and the Empire's finest warrior collapsed. Silence. Absolute silence. Darius Kane stood over Vortex's body, breathing hard, his hand charred and bleeding. He looked up at Emperor Vakor once more. "This is just one human," Darius said. "Imagine what happens when the other 8 billion stop being conquered and start fighting back." In that moment, Vakor understood the true cost of underestimating humanity. The Empire had conquered their world, but they would never conquer their spirit. And that spirit, embodied in this one bloodied, unbowed man, would be the spark that would eventually burn his empire to ashes. The Emperor stood slowly, his decision made. He could not let this human live, not because he feared one man, but because he feared what that man represented. But as the execution order formed on his lips, Vakor realized something that chilled his alien blood. The damage was already done. Every species in the arena had seen it. Every subjugated world would hear of it. The Veltharian Empire had just learned why humanity's greatest weapon was never their technology. It was their refusal to stay down.